All right, welcome to the iWealth podcast. And today we're getting a little update on FTC
Yeah.
and what you guys are all doing there. And really, why would anyone ever pay for this? I mean, honestly, let's just be honest.
Because they got extra money and they should.
No, there's got to be some other value
Yeah.
than just give me your money.
For sure. And that's actually a really good question. Like, let's just talk about structurally where this whole market is with financial advisors right now. Like there's this whole sea change coming with advisors, meaning AI is going to replace a lot of advisors. The advisors that want to show up and their value add is race to the bottom on fees. It's a race to zero. And if their value add is picking stocks or mutual funds or ETF, it's a race to AI can do it, right?
Yep.
So you better show up and have a value proposition for your clients you're dealing with. You better help them. We just did one of these podcasts about AI and how story won't replace the wisdom of an advisor. Like the advisor knows story. They know how to read the room. They know how to ask you the right questions to get you to the point. AI can't do that. It can't reason with you, right? And so FTC Plan on Purpose, so 4 days coming in the future, Plan on Purpose is the tool. You know, we built it for ourselves. Quite frankly, it's our number one goal is to serve our clients. I'm selfish and I want to take care of my clients and I want to have sticky clients. And you know, we benchmark ourselves versus other firms our size. And we have more net new assets than those other firms. And I think the main reason is this FTC Plan on Purpose tool. Here's why. There was a Wells Fargo banker 10 plus years ago that said, hey, if we have 5 relationships with the client, we have a client for life. So if you think about your own self, like if you're a Wells Fargo client, you had a safety deposit box, you have a checking, you have a savings, maybe a home loan, you know, maybe there's an IRA account. Like if you have 5 relationships with them, you're just not going to move your account. It's too painful. Like you're a client for life. Well, when you sit down with your clients and you help them get their financial life in order, and they're seeing it on the screen as you talk about long-term care and you put the story in around how you're going to handle long-term care expenses, and you click completed and time date stamp, and then you go to the college and you're like, how do you want to plan for college? And your clients are interacting with you and you're typing the story in front of them, and you hit complete and the lifetime's plan score. Like there's this whole behavioral finance thing that's going on with this tool. It's so important, and you've seen it from your standpoint too, of just helping you keep score. Like what analogy does come into your mind when I'm talking about that?
Yeah, I mean, people like checking boxes, you know, and even if they're not list people, I mean, everyone knows that list people like to check boxes. But if you aren't a list person, but you can see that you're checking boxes and that the other person is helping you do that,
Right.
There's huge value in that, well, maybe I'm not a list person, but they are, and they have a process, and that process has value.
That's exactly right, Matt. So you go to somebody, you pay them a fee,
Yep.
so you don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
Because they have a process and they're gonna go through this and dot the I's, and you don't want to do it. Somebody else is going to do it,
Yeah.
but you want to be part of it. Especially Gen Z wants to be part of it.
Yep.
So let's make them part of it.
Yeah.
And so that's what's so powerful about the tool. It's not like it's a Word document. It's a beautiful Word document.
Yeah.
What's powerful is the client interaction and them being part of it. And back to the Wells Fargo statement. So now, as you take your clients through this, and there's, let's just call it 20 different boxes that you're checking, and this isn't a one meeting, this is years of planning, but you're checking those boxes off and completing them. Those are relationships that you have with your client. If that client's going to leave you, they got to go recreate all that with the next advisor. They got to go through the same questions around long-term care, same questions around college, all that stuff that you're providing for them. But the disconnect is not enough advisors are having this conversation we're talking about. It might sound weird to you, but it's crazy on how many advisors don't want to have this conversation. They're not having the behavioral finance. All they're doing is looking at an investment statement saying, hey, market was up 16. You were up 16 and a half last year, net of fees, you're good. But what happens when you underperform by 5%? That's your whole value stake versus this conversation. Do you see that disconnect?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And so here's where I think the puck is going, to use a Gretzky term. Like, I think the future of financial advice is absolutely here to stay. And I think people will be willing to pay more for it. If you show up and you help them be accountable to their story. You're putting their story down in paper in front of them on a screen, But then you're also delivering it to them in their hand. So now the FDC app is in the App Store. Now they can get a username and password. Now they can go in and say, when I met with Brad, what did he say our beneficiaries were? And you can click on that and open it up and see. Mm-hmm. What were our to-do list out of this meeting? There's a task list for the client. Oh, we got to do this. What did Brad say about long-term care? When's that family meeting? When do our kids get our money when we die? What's the story around our will? Those things are put into this tool. And now once you put it in the client's hands, the client wants somebody else to be accountable for it, but they want to be part of it. Yep. They don't want to just offload it. They want to be part of it, especially this new generation. So this brings everybody together where they can have. Do you see that part of it with the Gen Z?
Yeah, it's a huge, huge value. You want to be in on the mix, but maybe not having to do every single step to it.
Right. And then as a consumer, are you going to question the 1% you're paying your advisor? If your advisor is really showing up this way, asking the right questions, document it in front of you, growing your lifetime plan score, trying to get to 100%, talking to you things about like digital assets. So we just added this to the tool. Too many advisors, in fact, no advisors I know of that are talking about digital assets, meaning Mr. and Mrs. Smith, when you die, what happens to your Facebook account, your Instagram account? Who has control of your passwords? What do you want to have happen to it, more importantly? Mm-hmm. And then who's the decision maker? Legal documents don't necessarily take care of that. Power of attorney's there, but when you're dead, power of attorney's gone. So what do you want to have happen? These are conversations that good advisors are going to have in the future, are actually going to demand more from a fee perspective because they're showing up in this holistic way, and then being able to show it to them in a tool. And that's what we've built. It's accidental. It's not that I'm can see this future. I built it for myself selfishly. But we continue to iterate and we continue to update this because I think this is where the puck's going from a financial planning. My question to you is, when you look at this not being an advisor and you think about this generation below you and your generation, is it important for you to be able to look when you want to see what that story is, or at least come into a meeting with your advisor and look and see what that story is? Like, how do you think about that?
I think as a parent, I would like to have my daughter go through the process and know that there is a process. And we've spent a lot of time just with doing the podcast thinking about that. Mm-hmm. And so there's some value in transferring that to her. And if that process, whatever it is, has a score that's associated with it, mm-hmm. all of a sudden, you can't make something better that you're not keeping track of. Yep. Right? You can't track something. If you're tracking it, then you have a fighting chance at, knowing where you're at with it.
You have to measure it.
Exactly. You have to measure it. Yep. And so the value at least comes from the way that I understand the value is, how do I give this to my daughter, Grace? Right. Mm-hmm. And so my job is, because my parents didn't have this figured out. Right. So if my job is to figure it out, but then also be able to show her someday, like, this is how you actually do this. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And if you can help me figure that out, that has huge amounts of value.
Yeah. So. Think about this, Matt, and I'm just exploring this right now. I just did one of these. Now we take all the data that we've been putting in FDC Plan on Purpose for you and your wife, and I use AI, and I export that data, the story, and I put it into an LLM or some type of language model. And it creates a 6-page slide deck with visuals that helps tell that story. Like the story that you and your wife have been working on all these years around thoughts around long-term care and college and beneficiaries and things. Yep. What's important to you? Because remember, we're getting that at the beginning, like next 12 months, what has to happen. And now I'm able to articulate that back. So right now the tool is it's process-based, right? It's boom, 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 boom. But now to be able to show you a slide deck or pull it up and say, well, here's the Matt and Carol story, to be able to share with your daughter. I think that's cool.
That's really cool.
We can figure that out.
That's really, really cool. Yeah. And the part that I like about that is I feel like people will get there, right? Other financial firms will get there. The value comes from asking this question: did I get it right? So you go through that slide deck after, you plug all of their data in. It creates the little, PowerPoint that's maybe 20 slides long, right? And you get to the end of it and you go, okay, so this is where we're at, right? What did I get right and what did I get wrong? And now all of a sudden they go, well, it's a lot right, but this one part of it is way wrong, da 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 da. And then that becomes the conversation because it's something that's actually valuable to them. So everything hinges on, once they get that slide deck back, that's the start point. And then what starts from there is what's right and what's wrong. And that next conversation is where the value happens. Mm-hmm. It's not in the slide deck as the playback. Everyone can do that. And most people won't because they're lazy. But everyone is capable of doing that if you have all of that data as you walk them through the process. Yeah. It's when you reiterate it back to them and then you ask, what did we get wrong? Like, am I understanding this correctly? Yeah. And then they go, no. And then they riff on something and you go, oh. And then that becomes part of that next slide deck for when they come in 6 months, 12 months, later.
Right. Yeah. And what's missing when we go to show this to your daughter? Because that'll open up the blind spots that they're seeing. And again, ChatGPT is not going to do it. AI is not going to solve it. The client has to solve it. Yep. But they have to be led by the financial advisor to help solve it.
And really that idea of that really comes from Chris Voss in saying, like, so let me understand this. He's doing a hostage negotiator, right? Yep. So he'll say, let me understand this, da 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 da, and talks through. Did I get that right? And then the hostage, the guy that's got him will say, oh, you're so wrong on this part of it, and then hammers on that part of it. But what happens is the client feels heard. So the guy that's got the people in the building feels heard out of it, and it also gives you a clue as to where they're actually really at.
Sure. Yeah.
So the slide deck is really a cool idea.
Yeah.
But the more important thing is that second piece.
The flute.
Yeah. Did we get it right?
Yeah. I like that.
So
that's interesting. Well, good. You don't think I'm completely off my rocker?
No, I think it's actually a great idea. But most people won't get to the starting line.
Right.
That's what the takeaway from this is. Most people never get to the point of saying, did I get this right?
What's so interesting is advisors that won't even take the step. Advisors that are just so, I call them fat and happy. They have their revenue coming in and they've got their clients and they're not looking at what's coming, and they need to show up differently. Yeah. They need to show up, and we built a tool for ourselves to show up. Now we're giving it to them to show up differently. Like, they need to get to the next phase, and we're just helping them do that. So I'm glad we were able to riff today a little bit and talk about it because I'm passionate about it.
Totally.
Yeah.
I like the slide deck as the kickoff to the next meeting. I think that's genius.